Hi, good morning. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, we're just streaming at the moment on YouTube and in the Conscious Transformation membership. So, today I wanted to touch on a couple of different things. So, before we head into the Q&A section, thank you so much for submitting your questions. I really appreciate it. And what I wanted to do is touch on some of the more broader aspects of creating your reality. Now, let me just see if I can add to stage our presentation. Okay, so hopefully that you can see what's on my screen at the moment, and let me see if I can rearrange it slightly. Okay. So I wanted to touch on something that I created, which is called the Conscious Creators Blueprint. Now, this essentially is to try and give you a much broader insight into the different components that is helpful in creating your reality and becoming conscious of some of your thinking, your behaviors, and all these different components that all play a part. Now, it's also important not to feel too overwhelmed with this because, in essence, if you were to boil it down um, to what action should you do, really, even though all of these things are important, and it's important if you're at the point where you're really actively you're actively looking to explore and learn more about this, then this is really helpful. But before, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. There's only one thing I believe that you need to focus on if you're trying to create happiness, wealth, and health. And ultimately, that's how you feel. It's also to follow what feels good, to listen to your body, and to give yourself what you need. So, following that gut instinct is a sort of a bypass all of these different components. But I know lots of people struggle with tuning into for various different reasons. And it's totally understandable that we haven't really been taught how to tune into our emotions, our feelings, our to monitor our thoughts, and some of this is necessary. So I wanted to touch on. Let's just dive in a little bit into the blueprint. Now it's broken down into three areas. So we've got foundation, awareness, and then the practice. So within the foundation, that's really trying to understand what are the core components that you have to understand as to the why. So you don't necessarily need to, if you've got faith and belief and you can just jump into, or you've had experiences with it in these sort of foundational elements, then that's not something that you need to really focus on. However, if you're starting from a point where reality creation is still really new to you, you haven't heard about these different theories and some of the scientific discoveries, then the foundation element is really key. And in that, we can really break that foundation element down into two parts. So we've got the nature of reality. That's understanding, like, why is it possible? Why in our universe do we create all of these different elements, and why is it possible, and how does consciousness play a part? And then we've got the mindset, which is so fundamental to everything that we have, whether it's health, wealth, happiness, relationships. Our mindset is really key. And so within that, we've got sort of our belief systems. What have we learned since we were born? Our limiting beliefs. Where have we built our own sort of prison of, or our ceiling of limitation? And then negative thinking. How are we cultivating a life that we don't want based on some of the thoughts that we're thinking? So that's within the foundational side. And as we move on to awareness, we have three parts. So we've got emotional intelligence, holistic practice, and environmental influence. So within the emotional intelligence, we have gratitude. So this is where we're really cultivating that understanding and awareness of our life, and then showing gratitude and encouraging those feelings to develop. Another part is emotional regulation. So it's really key not only that we have the right mindset, but we also know how to regulate our emotions. Now, that isn't about suppression, that's about being able to be vulnerable with yourself, sit in the feeling, and self soothe and understand, become conscious, and then transform. And also, as part of that, is then dealing with anxiety and stress and rising above it. So, looking at some of these areas of anxiety and stress and dealing with the ones that can you can define and pull apart. And in the conscious transformation membership, I've got in all of these areas, I've got tools and resources in order to help us process that. But what I would say with anxiety and stress is over the years, having tried both of these two methods that I'm about to sort of mention, they both add value. But I think it's kind of probably personal preference as to which one you choose. And the two choices that I would suggest is one, rising above it. So not burying your head, but doing it anyway, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, feeling the anxiety and recognizing that and lifting yourself up and out of it and focusing on the positive, focusing on the good, because what you focus on expands. So whether if you focus on the negative, that also expands. And so a negative consequence of picking apart some of these traumas and anxieties and stress is that when you focus on them, they do expand. So I used to do the first one where I would rise above it, and that was a fantastic coping mechanism. But what I did find, because I've also had complex PTSD, is that some of these issues never resolved. They were always, I was carrying this baggage with me. And so I then decided to really focus and double down on resolving some of these uh, traumas and allowing and encouraging this um, picking apart of the anxiety and the stress. Now that is fantastic to a point. So from the point of uh, being aware of what it is and then resolving those issues. And as long as you've got a strategy, and whether that's through therapy and different tools that you can have within the course, and also that you come across within your life, that's fantastic. But I would say be mindful that what you focus on increases. So it might come to a point where you feel like you've processed enough, where you've dealt with your anxiety and your stress enough that you now can do the first method where you basically rise above it. So that's what I would recommend, but that's only from my personal experience. It's understanding those two elements, and of course my preference would be not to ignore it, to sit with it, to understand it, to feel those feelings and work through them, and then rise above. So that's on the emotional intelligence side. Then we also have holistic practice. So these two elements, meditation and mindfulness, are really key and really important. And it's something that over time will give you this source of inspiration, clarity, peace, love, and compassion, and something for you to nurture as you go through this process. And with our hectic days and really intense experiences that we all go through, meditation and mindfulness is something that we should all have in our lives and have in our toolkit as a regular maintenance coping mechanism. And then moving on to the environmental influence. So it's really important to be around people that are like minded, where you want to head to, not people necessarily who have been in the same struggling background if you're trying to rise above it. So there's many different people and authors and some great insights over the years from people that say you are the sum total of the 5 people that are closest to you. And that is so true. So if you're trying to, or if your goal is to transform, not trying, I don't want to use that word really if your goal and if you are going to transform, you have the greatest chance of support if you surround yourself with the people that are where you want to go. So if you're trying to be, or if your aim is to be healthy, being around people who have a healthy body and a healthy mindset. It's often that whatever we're trying to create, whether it's wealth, health, happiness, or love, those kind of four key things, mindset is so important and it's contagious. So if you're around people that are pulling you down, try to limit that time with them as much as possible. And I've been in situations where it isn't possible to find those replacement energies and people. So what I would suggest is that you listen to as much content online or on podcasts or audio files as possible. So those people can be your 5 closest um, people who are already doing what you want to do. And obviously, that's one of the components as to, or one of the reasons why I've created the Conscious Transformation membership, is so that like minded people can come and support and uplift each other. It's so important to have that community aspect and to surround yourself with like-minded people. So again, if you are struggling, you can go to podcasts to find the people that are talking about and feeling and believing and are where you want to go. Listen to audiobooks, watch YouTube, join the membership, and surround yourself with people wherever you can of that energy, of that mindset. So then moving into the practice, the last kind of component, there are 2 elements to this. So we've got taking action and then removing the obstacles. So in taking action, this is like the visualization, the intention setting, affirmations, and reframing. And then removing the obstacles. This is overcoming fear, releasing trauma, building your self-worth and self-love, which is so fundamental to this process. Forgiveness of yourself and forgiveness of others, and then also allowing and managing anger. Now, I'm just noticing that we're running quite tight, so I'm going to just lightly touch on this overview of the roadmap. Really, I'll leave this up here so that you can read in your own time. But it's as you effectively gather that understanding of that foundation as to why it's possible, um, why we're in terms of the nature of the reality, why our reality is like this, why more creates more, why what you focus on expands, why consciousness plays such a vital part, and how we're all connected as human beings and there's a lot of evidence just to sort of just illustrate that as well, and how that impacts our life and our ability to create. So understanding that is really key. Then moving on to, once you have that understanding, the awareness of all the different components that you need to perhaps work on with yourself. And the first point really would be thought monitoring. So what are your thoughts? And maybe actually some of the questions that we're going to come up to from some of the community. Hopefully I'll be able to show how our thinking defines our experience, and what we think can sometimes be our limiting ceiling. And then into action. So once you've kind of had the assessment of where you are, what you need to work on, all the different tools in which you need to deploy, what are the things that you need to take action on, and how can you create change? So I hope that was helpful. Any more questions, just obviously feel free to share them with me, and we'll address them next week. So thank you again for submitting the questions. I think I've got about 5 that I'm going to touch on today in the next sort of 15 minutes. So the first one was, I have big dreams, but I feel overwhelmed by the steps to get there. So I also have really big dreams. I've always had huge dreams. And when I was younger, I kind of noticed that all of the goals that I set, I achieved. And so by the time I got to my end of year sort of assessment, I'd be a little bit disappointed that I didn't set bigger dreams, bigger goals, um, whether that's the job or a salary or whatever it was, whatever it is that I put down, I would achieve. And it wasn't instant, but they were all ticked off the list. So what that showed me was that I had to set much bigger goals. I had to expand out of the ceiling that I was limiting myself to. So we're all limited by our beliefs, and your goals are a perfect illustration of that. You only set a goal in which you feel is even um, applicable or suitable for you. And so, one of the biggest issues I find is that people have such small goals. So, I would encourage you to have that a moonshot that you feel you want to achieve, but also go further than that. Try and push yourself to reach for the stars. Now, obviously, you said that you feel overwhelmed by the steps to get there. So, first of all, it's definitely about looking at that feeling of overwhelm and what is it that you're feeling? What is it? Is it a fear that you won't achieve it? Is it a lack of belief in yourself? Um, the main thing for you really would be to try and sit in the feeling of already being there. What would it feel like if you achieved your moonshot and your stars goal? How would you feel? And as you're sitting there and based on the different sort of resistances that you can feel within your body as you're doing it, does that mean that you're not having faith in yourself or you're not believing in yourself? So it's really important to believe that you can do it. And if you're struggling with that aspect of believing that you can do it, this is where you can set little tiny goals that give you proof that you can achieve. So it depends on what range of resistance you've got. If you've got a really big range and very strong resistance, start really, really small. So, say today for example, I'm going to make my bed, and I'm going to make my bed every single day for the next 5 days, and then do it. And so, therefore, your subconscious mind knows that when you say something, you do something. So, this is a habit I've had for many years. It's just really supported me through all of my goals, is that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. So I have to be really mindful what I say I'm going to do, because that means I have to commit to doing it. So if you've got an enormous goal and you've got the moonshot and you've got the stars, first of all, let's break it down into manageable, achievable goals. Like, what do you want to achieve in the next year? What do you want to achieve in the next month? What can you achieve and work towards that goal in the next week? What can you achieve to work towards the week goal in the next day? So really break it down into small achievable goals. And obviously within that, if you have real significant resistance, then add a few other things in, like that are very small, that are very minor, that you can test and refine. So today I'm going to drink 3 glasses of water, and make sure that you do it. Those are all proof points that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And then really commit to the next step in your journey. So if you've decided at the end of this week you want to achieve something, what are the small steps to achieving that in a week? What can you achieve today that will support that? And then commit to it. Okay. Next question is, I get discouraged when I see quick results, and especially during setbacks. So I think we can all understand that feeling. Many years ago, I had ME for a period of 3 years, and it one, I guess, it enabled me to test all of these elements, but two, that gave me a very real and regular sense of disappointment that I wasn't better each month, because in my head I had a goal that I would be healthy the next month, and the next month came, and that was a huge setback that I was struggling with, because I hadn't detoxed my mind, I hadn't detoxed my body. I needed to do all of these different things. So, in those moments when you're feeling that sense of setback, you have to deploy the vision and the belief and really commit to it. Commit as if it's like the oxygen that you need. You're going to achieve your goal no matter what. I really see that life is a series of tests. So, as soon as, and I believe this is true in so many different ways, as soon as you set a goal, or as soon as you say that you have dealt with an emotional issue, I believe life will test you on that. So that's your opportunity, one, to be prepared that as soon as you say, I no longer have a problem with X, X is going to appear to test that theory. Um, and your reality will change when you change. So if I really, for example, was okay with the thing that I used to have a problem with, if I have changed, seeing that thing that I had a problem with wouldn't cause a reaction in me. So that's the kind of test. Um, and that's where you need to get to. You need to get to the point where you have changed so much that it doesn't matter if your reality hasn't changed, because in time your reality will change to where you're at. So for example, if you're looking to achieve abundance, you want to get into that state where you feel abundant, that it doesn't matter whether your external situation is showing you abundance or not, because you feel so abundant and happy and excited and um, abundant that it doesn't matter that your external reality is not showing you abundance. And at that point, that's when it will create it. For example, love is the same thing. If you're desiring and needing and wanting and desperate for that loving relationship, you're only holding it away from you. And many people have talked about this. The minute that you give up is the minute that you find that relationship. And what's happening there is that you are satisfied. You're providing yourself that love. You're filling in that gap. So there is no need. Need keeps it at a distance. You need to feel as though you've already got it. You need to feel at peace, to feel calm, to feel grateful. All of those different components give you that sensation of having. Once you feel like you have it, you'll be given it. So it really is about you changing first, and then your reality follows. Okay, the next question. How can practicing gratitude change my perspective on my current life situations? Um, so again, gratitude is a huge tool, um, and it's something that is very transformative. It takes you to that place of already being in it, and of already feeling satisfied, or already feeling love, already feeling abundant, because you get to align with that frequency of having. So when you're grateful for something, you have that something. And this world is built on energy and frequency. In my mind, it's very much like we're in this big bubble, and everything's inside the bubble, and it's like a fluid liquid. So uh, when we have a feeling that we're grateful for something, we resonate with that sensation of having it, and it comes and shifts to us. Doesn't matter how far away it is, it makes no difference, because we're all in this one environment together. uh, and like attracts like. So the more you focus on something that you have, the more you build of that around you. For example, in the negative aspect is, if you start off with a bad day, you get out, you fall off the bed, or something bad happens, everything from that point escalates. So it's really important to be conscious of this, and be conscious that what you focus on increases. And gratitude is one of the easiest ways of um, using that mechanism and benefiting from it. So the next question is, I find it hard to stick to my personal development plans. I'm struggling with motivation and feeling deflated. Um, so what I would say is, what's really beneath those feelings? So if you're struggling with motivation and feeling deflated, that tells me that this is an emotional piece, that actually you need to look what's beneath those feelings. What are you believing? What is real for you in that moment? So what it sounds as though is you've got your goal out here and you're looking at that goal, and yet you're feeling like you can't achieve it, or you're feeling deflated, you're feeling lack of worth or worthless, or whatever those feelings are representing to you. And that's really impossible to feel motivated and to stick to your personal development plans, because you haven't dealt with the mindset that comes that's basically your hurdle. So this is part of when I showed you in a previous slide. This is removing the obstacles and processing what is it that you're really thinking, what's unconscious that you can transform and make conscious. So another way of phrasing that, if it's really hard for you to tune into what it is that you're feeling, is what would you believe if you were feeling motivated and if you were feeling energized right now? So if you felt fantastic, if you had your personal goals here and you felt like, yes, I can do it, you felt motivated, you felt that buzz, that sense of energized, um, what would you be thinking? What's that internal dialogue? And so now, in an ideal world, you would journal this. So you would write down, what would you feel if you were feeling motivated and energized, on the left, and on the right hand side, what do you feel? So when you're feeling that you're struggling with motivation and you're feeling deflated, what thoughts are you saying to yourself? What's that internal dialogue that you're having that is encouraging or allowing you to feel lack of motivation? Now, in order to stick to your personal development plans, it's really important to make the unconscious conscious and then work on those. And then at that point, work on what would make you feel energized, what would make you feel good, what would you believe? How would you feel if you loved yourself? How would you feel if you believed that you were capable? How would you feel if you committed? How would you feel if it was already achieved? And work on the granular elements and shift out whatever you can shift out, and then get to a point of feeling gratitude for having those. And when you feel gratitude, more things will shift into place. And then this is the final question. So, how often should I reassess my life goals, and what's the best way to do this without feeling like I'm always starting over? So, I would say at least once a year. I do mine every December before the new year. I love it. It's a fantastic way of uh, giving myself some time. I take myself off to a coffee shop. I take my journal. Um, and I sit down and I review my goals from the previous year. I go through and define what it is that I want to create in the new year. But it does sound, in the way that you phrase this, that you're feeling as though it's a negative thing, to whether that's reassessing your life goals or the feeling like you're starting over again. Um, and it's something I really love to do, because I know that every time that I do it, things start to fall into alignment just because I've done that exercise. And that's because the power of choice, the power of making a decision, is so strong. When we make a decision, life supports us. And so whenever I do a life assessment, it's a great opportunity for me to encourage and to take advantage of life supporting me. So once I make a new decision, life will then support my decision. So I wonder, what are you unconsciously holding on to or feeling negative about in this situation? So I would just recommend spending some time to think about, one, and I know we're coming to the end of our time. Um, what is it that potentially in this situation that you're feeling heavy about or you're worrying about? And then can you can you transition over to seeing how, once you make a decision, how life is going to support you? It depends. And I've had so many different experiences myself as to the different battles that could be going on right now. So it could be that you believe life is not going to support you. It could be that you feel somehow you need to suffer. It could be that somehow you feel as though you're not ready or worthy enough. There are so many different things. At the end of the day, it's all unique to yourself. And I know that you can achieve it. So it's really important to start looking at this as a solvable problem and then plan it out, put it apart, and start rebuilding it, and then placing into your plan what it is that you need to build success for you, and gratitude, and leaning back on the sort of the blueprint I've just showed you earlier, all of those different components to help you to manage your mindset, to bring the unconscious into conscious awareness, to encourage with intention setting and visualizing, to reframe certain thoughts and feelings, to step out of limiting beliefs. So hopefully you can feel, I hope that you all feel like I've answered your questions. Any other questions, feel free to let me know. And I hope you have a wonderful week and see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.